The desert, don't forget. Sunlight boiled off the cracked earth like water on a cast-iron skillet, painting the landscape in a shimmer of heat and illusion. Clara Ashford rode alone. Her silhouette, a lean figure wrapped in faded blue calico and dust. She had the posture of a woman carved from survival, spine straight, jaw set, eyes dark, with more memory than mercy. Her mare, a sun-beaten roan with ribs like barrel staves, moved steady beneath her, no longer needing direction. They'd been on the trail for weeks. The horse knew the rhythm of vengeance. Clara didn't speak. Not to the horse. Not to herself. There were no prayers, no whispers to God or ghosts. Just wind, grit, and the sound of creaking leather as her saddle shifted with each mile. Up ahead, the ridgeline cut across the horizon like the spine of a buried beast, and nestled against its flank, the trading post waited. She reached it by dusk. The post was a gathering of timber, sweat, and lies. 6 buildings crouched behind a split-rail corral, their walls weather-beaten and patched with old bullet holes. Smoke curled from a chimney. Voices carried, low and rough, laced with the weight of men who'd seen too much and trusted too little. A tethered mule brayed near a water trough. A mutt lifted its head, growled, and slunk off beneath the porch. Clara dismounted without a word and led her horse to the rail. She tied it off, checked the cinch on her saddlebag, and stepped onto the porch like a ghost returning to a house that forgot her name. Inside, the scent hit her first, smoke, sour beer, sweat. The room was dim, lit by 2 oil lamps and a half-dead fire. Men leaned over cards. One of them spat into a tin. Another looked up, his face lined like a dry creek, eyes narrowing at the sight of a woman with a rifle across her back. No one spoke to her. That suited Clara fine. She stepped to the bar. The barkeep was heavy-set, his apron gray with filth, his mustache drifting like a lost feather. He poured her whiskey without asking. She didn't drink it. "I'm looking for Gideon Rusk," she said, voice low and sharp as a whetstone. The barkeep stilled. So did the room. Someone chuckled behind her. "Ain't no good come of saying that name." Clara didn't turn. "He live?" The barkeep nodded once. "Cabin behind the storehouse. Hasn't taken a visitor in months." "Then I'll be the first." She tossed a silver dollar onto the bar. It rang like a shot. Outside, the sun had slipped behind the ridgeline, and the wind had picked up, carrying the sharp scent of creosote and old fire. Clara moved between buildings like smoke herself, silent, certain. She reached the cabin. The door was closed, the windows dark. A faint curl of chimney smoke told her he was inside, still breathing. Her hand moved to her Colt. She thumbed the hammer back. 5 years for this. Clara remembered everything. The way the fire looked against the barn that night, how her husband's scream was cut off by a bullet through the chest, how the baby's cradle was overturned and empty. She remembered crawling through ash and broken glass, blood dripping from her scalp into her eyes. Everyone said it was Apaches. Everyone said the land was cursed. But Clara found boot prints too wide for Apache moccasins. She found a tobacco twist left behind, Southern brand, sold only along the Kansas border. And in the ashes, a broken horseshoe with a forge mark. She tracked that mark to a man named Rusk. It had taken years, tracking through outlaw towns, bribing whores, threatening smugglers, following the wake of burned wagons and dead cattle. But she'd found him. She stepped onto the porch. Wood creaked under her boots. She raised a fist to knock. The door opened. He stood there, taller than she remembered from the wanted poster, broader, beard now streaked with gray. His eyes met hers and didn't flinch. "Clara Ashford," he said. Not a question. She raised the pistol. He looked past it, as if he'd been expecting this all along. "You finally caught up. You stole my boy," she said. Her voice was calm. Dead calm. Gideon's jaw worked. "You don't know what you think you know." "Don't I? You gonna shoot me here in front of him?" The words slid past her. "What do you mean?" "Will's inside." That name didn't register. Then a voice drifted from within the cabin, light, young, without fear. "Pa!" And then he stepped into view. The boy was maybe 10. Dirty blonde hair, freckled cheeks, eyes the color of wet stone. His shirt was too big, cinched at the waist with a rope. He held a wooden carving of a horse in one hand. His gaze flicked to Clara, to the gun in her hand, then back to Gideon. He stepped close to the older man and took his hand without hesitation. Clara's mouth went dry. Her trigger finger froze. The boy's eyes, they were her husband's eyes. She lowered the pistol slowly, like lowering a coffin lid. "I'll come back," she whispered. Then she turned and walked into the dark. The forest wasn't far. Clara moved until she was out of sight of the trading post, then dropped to her knees behind a boulder. Her breath came hard and uneven. She wasn't crying. Not quite. Just shaking. She hadn't imagined it. That boy was hers. She built a fire from dry sage and cedar. Not big, just enough to keep off the night's cold. The stars were out, bold and unblinking above the ridge. Somewhere nearby, an owl called once. The desert felt wider now, stranger. Gideon Rusk had been her monster. The name she cursed when sleep wouldn't come. The face she imagined at the end of every bullet. She'd pictured shooting him and feeling peace. But now he was pa to a boy who carved horses and slept warm inside a cabin. The boy she had nursed. The one she thought had burned with the rest of her world. She didn't sleep. She watched the fire burn down to coals and tried to stitch her mind back together. By dawn, she had none of the answers. Just questions. Why had Gideon taken the boy? Why hadn't he killed him like the others? What kind of man raises the child of a woman he helped destroy? She moved back near the post just after sunrise, careful to stay hidden behind the tree line. Through the glass of the cabin window, she saw them. Gideon at the table, the boy beside him. They were eating oatmeal. Gideon smiled at something the boy said. The child laughed. Clara flinched. Later, the boy ran outside and chased a mutt across the clearing. Clara followed at a distance, watched the way he moved, the way he spoke to the dog. He called it Whiskey. She remembered naming the dog they used to have Sugar. Her husband had laughed at that, said naming dogs after vices or saints was good luck. The boy climbed a tree, fearless. Clara felt pride and sorrow bloom together in her chest like two sides of the same wound. She returned to the cabin that night. Didn't knock this time. Gideon opened the door again. He looked tired, wary. He stepped aside. She entered, sat by the cold fireplace. Neither spoke for a while. Finally, Clara said, "I need the truth." Gideon poured her coffee, sat across from her. "I was hired to run cattle south." That was the cover. Didn't know what they really planned till it started. The raid. Clara didn't interrupt. "I wasn't supposed to be near your place, but I saw the smoke. Rode in after. Too late." He looked at his hands. They trembled. "Your husband was already dead. So was most of the house. Then I heard a cry. Found the boy, tucked under a beam. Alive. Screaming." Clara swallowed hard. "I didn't know what to do. Couldn't leave him. Couldn't go to the marshals. My name was already foul. So I took him. Raised him. Called him Will. Figured he'd forget." "He hasn't," Clara said. "I see it in him sometimes. That look, that hunger to know more than I can give him." She sipped the coffee. "It was bitter, but warm. I never knew for sure you survived. Word came later. I didn't know how to find you. You didn't try." He looked down. "No, I didn't." Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. "You gonna take him?" Gideon asked softly. Clara stared at the fire. "I don't know," she said. He nodded. "You have every right. He calls you Pa. That don't make it true." Clara stood, walked to the door, rested her hand on the frame. "I came to kill you. I know. I still might." He didn't move. Clara turned to face him. Her eyes were steel. "But not tonight." And she left. Back at her camp, the fire was long dead. The moon rode high over the desert, silvering every stone and cactus. Clara lay on her bedroll, eyes open, watching the sky bleed with stars. 5 years of rage. 5 years of hunting. She thought she'd find justice in blood, but she hadn't counted on finding her son in the arms of her enemy. The world had changed again, and Clara Ashford would have to decide what kind of woman she'd become in it. She closed her eyes. The wind whispered through the pines. And for the first time in years, she didn't dream of fire. Dawn broke slow and red across the desert, bleeding light over the ridge like a wound reopening. Clara watched from the cover of pines, legs tucked beneath her, rifle balanced across her thighs. Below her, the trading post yawned to life. Smoke climbed from chimneys. Mules brayed. A rooster called once and went quiet. The cabin door opened. Will stepped out first, hair tousled, boots unlaced. He carried a slingshot in one hand and a slice of bread in the other. Behind him, Gideon followed, adjusting his belt, revolver already strapped. They looked like any father and son, moving in rhythm, speaking in low tones, only they understood. The boy grinned and flung a pebble at a barrel. It pinged off with a hollow sound, and Will laughed. Clara's chest tightened. She hadn't slept, not properly. The ground beneath her bones had offered no comfort, only a place to lie and think. And Lord, she had thought about the baby she lost and the boy she found, about the man who'd raised him and the line between justice and vengeance growing thinner by the minute. She reached for the small locket she kept inside her blouse. The metal was worn smooth from years of rubbing. Inside was a sketch, her husband, John, inked by a circuit preacher who owed them a favor. Clara had once believed revenge would honor that man's memory. But now, she tucked the locket away. The boy was drawing in the dirt with a stick, sketching the shape of a horse. Clara remembered how John used to trace pictures for her in the margins of the good book. Maybe it was blood, maybe memory, but the likeness chilled her. By mid-morning, Clara had moved closer. The post's outer fence gave way to a stand of dead trees, cover enough. She watched as Gideon sent the boy to the supply shed with a list and a coin. The moment the child disappeared inside, Clara stepped from the trees. Gideon was sharpening a knife on the porch step, his head turned just slightly. "You're getting bolder." Clara didn't blink. "I'm running out of time." Gideon nodded slowly, stood, sheathed the blade. "Then let's stop wasting it." He led her inside. Same cabin as before, sparse but clean. 2 chairs, 1 cot, fire crackling, coffee black and bitter as ever. He poured 2 cups. Clara didn't touch hers. "He looks like his father," she said. It wasn't a question. Gideon nodded. "More every year." "What have you told him?" "That his mother died in the fire. That I found him and kept him safe. That's half a truth. It's the half he could carry." Clara sat. Her hands stayed near her hips, fingers brushing the leather grip of her Colt. She wasn't here to kill him anymore. But habit didn't die easy. "Tell me what really happened," she said. He leaned back, shadows crossing his face as the fire popped between them. "I was running guns back then," he began. Not proud of it, but war was ending and men were desperate. One job led to another. Eventually I rode with a group who thought they could push settlers off good land and resell it cheap. Was it for the money? He shook his head. Wasn't just that. I was angry. Thought the world owed me something. I drank that poison deep. You were part of the raid. I was supposed to stay behind. Ride clean up. Then I saw the smoke. I was already too close to back off without suspicion, so I went in with the rest. I saw your place go up. I saw your husband fall. And then I heard the baby. Clara's nails dug into the wooden chair arm. I thought you were dead. Everyone did. I had a chance to take the boy and run. Didn't know why I did it. Just couldn't leave him there. She studied him for a long moment. You could have left a note. Told someone. I should have, he said. I didn't. That's on me. You ran, Claire said flatly. I did. And I kept running. Until one day he looked up at me and called me Pa. And I stopped. She stood abruptly. The chair scraped the floor, like a blade on bone. He's mine. I know. I should take him now. Ride far. Raise him right. You could, Gideon agreed. Why haven't you stopped me? He exhaled. Because I won't be the man who takes something from you again. Outside, a soft knock came. Clara tensed. Just a boy, Gideon said. Will stepped in, arms full of supplies. Got the lard and the beans, Pa. But Tom says we're low on kerosene. He paused, looked at Clara. Ma'am, he said politely. She managed a nod. Her throat was too tight to speak. Gideon said, "This is Miss Clara. She's—" "I'm passing through," Clara cut in. "Just needed a warm place for the morning." Will grinned. "You're welcome to stay for breakfast. Pa makes good beans." She almost smiled. Almost. He disappeared into the back room. Clara turned to Gideon. "You tell him I'm his mother, he won't believe it. He might. It'll destroy what he has." Gideon looked weary. "Or it'll give him back what he lost. I don't know which is worse." Clara returned to her camp by midday. She needed air, space, thought. The desert stretched before her, in all directions, vast and indifferent. Coyotes howled in the distance. A hawk circled high, riding invisible thermals. That night, she didn't light a fire. She needed darkness. She kept seeing the boy's face, the way he looked up at Gideon. Trusting, innocent, unaware. Was it selfish to take him? Cruel? Would he resent her forever? Or would he thank her one day for giving him the truth? The ground was cold. Clara sat on it anyway, arms wrapped around her knees. She watched the stars and remembered her husband's laugh. The way he cradled their infant like a promise. The way he kissed Clara's temple when he thought she was asleep. He would want their son safe. But he'd also want him to know who he was. She returned to the cabin the next day. Will was outside again, carving the same wooden horse, tongue between his teeth. Clara approached slowly. He looked up. "You come back." She crouched beside him. "I did. Want to see what I made?" She nodded. He held it up, rough, uneven, but full of life. "I used to have a horse," she said softly. "Real pretty, gray with a black mane." "What happened to her?" "Died in a fire." Will's face fell. "I'm sorry." Clara placed a hand on his shoulder. "Me too." He looked at her, something flickering behind his eyes. Do I know you?" She hesitated. "I think you knew someone like me once." Gideon appeared in the doorway. He watched, silent, not interrupting. Later, inside, she faced him again. "I need time," she said, "to know what's right." He nodded. "You'll stay." "For a few days." He handed her a folded piece of paper. "If something happens to me, give this to him. It tells him everything." Clara took it. "Why would something happen?" Gideon's eyes darkened. "There's a man. Used to ride with me. Knows I left the gang. Knows I turned away. If word gets out that I'm alive and here—" He didn't finish. Clara's hand went to her revolver. "Let him come." That night, she sat beside Will and told him a story. Not the whole one. Not yet. Just a tale of a woman who lost a child and crossed deserts to find what was stolen. He leaned against her, eyes wide. "You think she got him back?" he asked. Clara's throat tightened. "I think maybe she did." Outside, a coyote howled. Wind pressed against the cabin walls. Gideon stood watch on the porch. Inside, Clara laid a blanket over the boy, tucked it around his shoulders like she used to, like it was second nature. Her fingers trembled. She whispered a prayer she hadn't said in 5 years. And for the first time in 5 years, she let hope back in. The first shot rang out just before dawn. Clara jolted upright in the cot, her fingers already on the revolver beside her. The second shot was closer, crisper, like it had snapped a twig of morning peace in two. In the corner, Will stirred beneath his blanket, eyes wide and blinking. Gideon's voice came low and firm from the doorway. "Stay inside. Both of you." He had his rifle in hand, jaw clenched, eyes scanning the tree-line as he moved out onto the porch. Clara crossed the room in 3 steps and peered through the front window. Dust rose along the trail, 5 riders at least, maybe more, moving slow and steady, like men who didn't need to rush because they already knew they owned the place. "Trouble?" Clara asked. Gideon didn't answer. He raised his rifle and fired once into the air. That was answer enough. Will sat up, pale-faced. "What's happening?" "Quiet now," Clara said. She knelt beside him, brushing hair from his forehead. "You remember what I told you? About keeping your head low and listening sharp." The boy nodded. "You do exactly that, no matter what you hear." She kissed his temple. Then she took her rifle from its case by the hearth and stepped onto the porch beside Gideon. "They're here for you," she said. They're here for what they think I still owe them, he replied. The riders had stopped just beyond the corral. One of them, a tall man with a red bandana covering the lower half of his face, rode forward. His voice came rough and echoing off the wind. Gideon Rusk, you've been gone a long time. But we never forgot. Gideon cupped a hand around his mouth. You got no claim here, Marshal. Turn around. Clara flinched. That's not a marshal. Gideon gave a humorless smile. Not in the legal sense. The man in the red bandana pulled the covering down. His face was scarred from cheek to ear, his eyes flat and colorless. You owe for that last run. And for not dying like you were supposed to. I'm done with that life. Yeah, we noticed. Little house. Trading post. Raising someone else's kid. Cute. Clara stepped forward, rifle steady. Leave now, she said. This land's not yours. The scarred man squinted at her. Who's this? Wife? Wrong question, Gideon said. They opened fire. Bullets snapped past Clara's ear as she dove behind a porch post. Gideon fired twice, hitting one of the horses. The animal screamed and reared, throwing its rider. Men shouted. Wood splintered. The dog, Whiskey, barked madly from under the steps. Inside, Will screamed. Clara turned to Gideon. We can't hold them off forever. We don't need forever, he said. Just enough. Enough for what? He handed her a folded piece of paper, the same letter he'd given her days before. His eyes were calm. In case I fall, take him. Ride north. Don't stop. You're not dying today. I might. Another shot shattered the window beside them. Gideon leaned over the rail and returned fire, dropping one man from his saddle. Clara caught movement from the left, two men flanking. She swung her rifle, squeezed the trigger. One went down. The other ducked behind the shed. Smoke clouded the morning. Gunfire echoed off the hills. Clara's shoulder burned. Something had grazed her. She didn't stop. Her focus narrowed, the way it always had when things turned bloody. Time slowed. Sound blurred. Then came the scream. Will. She spun and saw the back door swinging open. One of the men had looped around. He was dragging the boy by the arm. No. Clara broke from cover, sprinting. A shot cracked the air beside her. She didn't flinch. She reached the man just as he reached his horse. Will was kicking and shouting. Clara drove her rifle, but into the man's skull. He staggered. She yanked Will free, shielding him with her body. The man raised his pistol, and Gideon shot him through the chest. The man fell. So did Gideon. Clara's scream died in her throat. She shoved Will back inside and dropped beside Gideon, who was bleeding from the gut, blood pooling warm and thick in the dirt. No, stay with me. His eyes were fading, but he smiled. Told you. Just needed enough time. She pressed her hands against the wound, but it was no use. He reached up, clutched her sleeve. Raise him better. I will. He let out a shaky breath. Thank you for finding me. And then he went still. She stood slowly, tears hot, but unfallen. The gunfire had stopped. The remaining riders were gone. Or dead. She didn't care which. She looked out over the yard at the bodies, the blood, the broken boards. Then she looked back at Will, standing in the doorway. Come here, she said. He came, eyes locked on Gideon's body. He didn't cry. He saved you, Clara said. He saved us both. Will looked up at her. Who was he, really? She knelt before him. He was a man who did bad things once. But he did one thing right. He raised you when no one else could. He gave you a chance. Will blinked. But you know him? I do. He frowned. How? Clara reached into her blouse and pulled out the locket. Opened it. Showed the sketch of John Ashford. That's your father, she said. Will stared. He looks like me. She nodded. He died the night your home burned. I thought I lost you, too. But I didn't. Will's mouth opened, then closed again. His hands clenched and unclenched at his sides. I'm your mother, Will. He looked at her for a long time. You sure? Clara's voice cracked. Every breath I've taken since that night was to find you. He didn't say anything, but slowly his arms went around her. She held him tight. Later, Clara wrapped Gideon's body in a blanket and buried him beneath the cottonwood tree on the ridge. Will helped. Together, they piled stones over the grave. She read the letter aloud that night. Will sat cross-legged by the fire. The letter was short. Gideon wrote of regret, of choices he couldn't undo, of a child he didn't deserve but tried to raise right. He called Clara by name, said he hoped she'd find peace in knowing the boy had grown kind and strong. Will was quiet for a long time after she finished. Do you think he was sorry? I think he tried to be. Will nodded. Then that's enough for me. They stayed one more night. In the morning, Clara saddled 2 horses, packed what supplies she could, and led Will from the only home he'd ever known. They didn't look back. The desert stretched ahead, silent and sun-washed. Will rode beside her, his legs barely long enough for the stirrups. He didn't speak much. Neither did she. The road would be long. There'd be questions and answers, but not today. Today was for starting over. They made camp that night near a dry riverbed. Will curled into his blanket. Clara watched the stars bloom above them. The wind whispered in the cottonwoods. Somewhere in the dark, a coyote called and was answered. She looked over at the boy, at his steady breathing. Then she turned her eyes to the stars and spoke soft and low. I thought vengeance would fill the hole you left, John. But it didn't. Only love ever could. Her voice caught, and I found him. I found our boy. She closed her eyes. They rode through the canyons before dawn, the cold sharp as broken glass. The desert held its breath. Neither Clara nor Elijah spoke much, and the boy Jesse slept lightly, head against her shoulder, as they followed the trail eastward. They'd left the burned-out remains of Jack Monroe's ranch behind them. Nothing but ash and ghosts there now. But ghosts didn't die easy. Elijah's arm hung in a blood-soaked sling. He hadn't complained once, even after patching it with whiskey and a bite of leather. Clara rode beside him, her eyes scanning the brush line like a hawk, her Winchester always within reach. She didn't trust the quiet. The desert didn't forget spilled blood, and Monroe's men would be hunting them by noon. I know a place, Elijah said, breaking the silence. His voice was low and graveled, half swallowed by pain. Old Mission Church, half ruined, but it's stone. Holds against bullets. You sure? She asked. No, he said, but it's what we got. They pushed the horses hard. Dust kicked up around their boots as the sun clawed its way over the ridge, painting the red rocks gold. Time burned faster now. Clara felt it in her chest like a fuse. The mission rose out of the earth like a grave marker, tucked behind a shallow arroyo, crumbling walls, shattered bell. Still, the place had bones. Strong ones. They led the horses inside and barred the front doors with timber and scrap iron Elijah scavenged from the broken pews. Jesse followed Clara everywhere, silent and wide-eyed. He hadn't cried once since the fire. Not once. Just clung to her like he'd known her longer than a day. She wasn't sure what to make of it. Get some water boiled, Elijah told her. You'll need to clean your rifle. That bolt's sticking to... She didn't argue. As she worked, she glanced at him. Bandaged, pale, too still. She could see the fever in his eyes, even if he wouldn't admit it. You lied me, she said at last. He met her eyes. Yeah. You told me Jack Monroe bought my son. I did. But you knew he was your blood, didn't you? Elijah looked away. The silence sat between them like a coiled rattler. I figured it out too late, he said. Didn't know when Monroe brought him back from a raid. Said he was just a half-breed stray. Gave him to me, like you'd hand off a broken saddle. Kid looked like someone I once knew. Took me time. Clara's jaw clenched. That someone was me. I didn't know you were alive, he said. After the river. After that winter. I thought... Don't. She stood, fists tight at her sides. You thought I was dead, so you went west and forgot me. Took Monroe's coin. Rode with him when he raided those villages. I didn't know what he was until it was too late. But you stayed, she snapped. I stayed for Jesse. That stopped her. He wasn't my blood, Elijah said. Not then. But he was mine. Every day, I fed him. Taught him to shoot. To ride. I made sure Monroe never laid a hand on him. And now? Clara asked, now you know he's your son? He nodded. Changes nothing. Still mine. Clara looked at Jesse, huddled by the fire, his small face too old for its years. She saw herself in him, the same stubborn chin, the same wildfire behind his quiet eyes. He deserves better than either of us, she said. He deserves to live, Elijah replied, and to choose who he wants to be. A sound snapped outside. Hoofbeats. Then silence. Clara moved first. She pressed Jesse into the back room, whispered something he nodded to, then shut the heavy door. Elijah, she hissed. He was already on his feet, rifle in hand, jaw clenched against the pane. They're early, he muttered. She took the front window. Dust moved beyond the rocks. 6 riders, maybe more. All wore black hats and grim eyes. Monroe's guns. Hired men who didn't flinch at women or children. A voice rang out. Send the boy out. We'll let you live. Clara answered with a bullet. The shot clipped a man's hat clean off. He dove for cover, cursing loud enough to make the mission walls blush. Then hell came. Gunfire shattered the windows. The door shuddered under a dozen slugs. Dust choked the air. Clara returned fire in short, brutal bursts. She moved like muscle memory, calm, efficient. Elijah took the other side, one-handed, bleeding but deadly. They fought like 2 people with nothing left to lose. When the shooting paused, Clara reloaded in silence. Elijah slumped beside her, face pale as ash. You still with me? She asked. He nodded. Just tired of bleeding. Another voice echoed outside. This one Clara knew too well. Clara May. Jack Monroe himself. Voice like a whip crack. I know you're in there, girl. She stood slowly, dust in her teeth, fury in her chest. Elijah. Monroe yelled next. You too. After all I gave you. Clara walked to the door. Elijah grabbed her arm. Don't. But she opened it anyway, just a crack. Enough for Monroe to see her eyes. That boy's mine, Monroe said, grinning. I bought him fair. Raised him when you were out whoring or dying or whatever it is you women do when you're not useful. Clara's finger twitched on the trigger. He ain't yours, Jack. No, he laughed. Then whose is he? That traitor in there? Or yours? Either way, he belongs to me. I'll see you in hell, she said. You first. The next shot came too fast to think. Clara ducked. The wall behind her splintered. Elijah screamed. She turned. He'd been hit again. His leg this time. Monroe was pushing up now, closer, confident. Men flanked the sides. Time had run out. Clara grabbed Elijah under the shoulders and dragged him back, breath ragged. You can't win, he muttered. Save Jesse. Run. She slapped him. I didn't come this far to lose him again. Jesse burst from a back room. Ma, he yelled. Gunfire roared. A bullet missed him by inches. Clara tackled him behind the altar, shielding his body with her own. Elijah! Jesse screamed. Pa! Elijah reached out a bloodied hand. I'm here, son. Another barrage tore into the stone. The bell above cracked and fell. Clara's heart pounded. Her rifle was dry. Only 1 pistol left. 2 bullets. Take him, Elijah rasped. Through the tunnel. Behind the altar. Go now. She stared at him. You'll die. I already did. She kissed his forehead, grabbed Jesse's hand, pulled him through the dark. They crawled through rubble and dust, Jesse sobbing quietly. Behind them, the gunfire roared louder. Then, a sound, like thunder, like everything breaking. Then silence. Outside, dawn had bled into full light. Birds scattered from the cliffs. Clara and Jesse emerged half a mile down the arroyo. Smoke curled up from the mission's roof. She kept her eyes on the horizon, but Jesse looked back. Elijah, he whispered. Clara didn't answer. They rode hard, silent, dust on their clothes, ash in their lungs. But they didn't stop until the sun sat high and the desert opened wide before them. At the top of a ridge, they paused. Clara looked at her son. I should have come sooner, she said. You came when I needed, he replied. He reached for her hand, held it. That night, they made camp beneath a ring of old junipers. Stars wheeled overhead. Coyotes cried in the distance. Clara stared into the fire. She thought of Elijah, of the girl she used to be, of the man she'd hunted, and the one she'd found instead. She'd come west for blood. She left with a son, and that Maybe was something worth living for.